right? So nowadays, all the developers have gone agile. All of them, want to have quicker deliveries. An average sprint which delivers a production-ready code lasts for maybe 2 weeks or even lesser now. And we have come to an extent where there are deliveries, multiple deliveries in a single day. So the developers often feel the operations is not keeping up to pace. And what does an operations person think? They think the developers are too cool, and they think the developers think they are too cool, and they don't want to follow any processes or standards. They don't want to adhere to the governance that the IT has imposed on them. So in order to solve that problem, we have developed a solution, which I'll be sharing on later. So the second problem we want to touch base on today would be how we can make our configuration management easier, how we can make it more efficient, how we can get more visibility into the infrastructure, how we can move away from a reactive incident management to a more proactive incident management. Right? So we would like to be able to predict when an outage might occur, prevent that outage from happening, and keep our business services up and running. So today I'll go into detail, on the design of a couple of solutions that we developed. So I know all of you do the groundwork where you are very hands-on with the work. So I saw the distribution; it was pretty even, 50-50. So when we embarked the configuration management journey, the one thing we wanted to do was have complete control over our infrastructure. So we wanted to have good visibility, and then we wanted to know that what changed in our environment. Yeah, and if that change is valid, is it tracked properly, and is it going to increase any distortion in an environment? So in order to do that, we came up with this design where I think on my right-hand side, the rightmost vertical that you see, it's typical how a data center would look like. CA being a big organization, is a very has a mixture of different technologies. It has a lot of servers running as VMs. It has a mixture of some physical servers, and we also use AWS cloud quite heavily now. And I have also put in the CMDB over there, and as well as network devices. So what we are trying to achieve by all of this was, we wanted to be able to go and get critical data and information from our data center, and then do some validation on it, and make sure that any new change introduced in our data center is properly validated. In order to achieve that, we have to depend on an orchestration layer, which was a process automation software that we chose, which would hold to these different components within the data center periodically, pump that data back into an unstructured database by the help of some scripts we have written using Java, Python, Node.js, PowerShell, all of these technologies. And then we had developed a rules engine where each of this data that we gathered and data that might change on one of these components would be validated. So to give you an example, maybe we would like to know if a service has stopped running on a Windows server, right? So I know we have a lot of monitoring tools which will do that for you, but how do you monitor the monitor, right? Can you accurately tell me, or can you confidently tell me if all of your servers have the monitoring agent installed, running properly, not in hung state, and is reporting the correct, accurate data properly to the server? So we were facing all of these challenges. So our rules engine would basically take the state of maybe a service or a port, or maybe even the volume availability on a server, and validate it against the expected state. So maybe you want an antivirus service to be running all the time. So we check that with the rules and make sure, if it's not running, then we have some autofix around it, which was again implemented by the help of some random scripts. So this design was better than the state we were. This design helped us achieve a better state than we were earlier, but it also had a few drawbacks. So as you can see, there was one single point of failure, which is the process automation software. And if for some reason, if the load increased or if the server didn't perform as expected that day, then the whole process would collapse. And we were seeing this more often as our data center's footprint kept growing. And to support that process automation software, we needed a heavy infrastructure behind it. So we started off with maybe 3 or 4 agent machines supporting the process automation software, but then we had to keep adding more and more every now and then. And we knew that this is not a model that we would survive with. And the manual intervention kept on increasing, and that was taking us away from the real reason why we implemented this design. So now the current state, which we are able to achieve with the help of some of the AWS services, has relieved us of that pain and also has helped us achieve real-time insight into our infrastructure. So as you can see, we have been successfully able to eliminate the whole process automation, orchestration layer with the help of AWS Lambda. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the Lambda, but I think 2014 reInvent is when AWS had announced Lambda. And Lambda is basically an event-driven compute service provided by AWS. So as a consumer of Lambda, I don't need to worry about the load I am putting on Lambda, because I think that is the worry of AWS, right? I treat that as infinite compute available for me. And with the help of this, we have been able to optimize our process maybe 20x times. And we have been able to achieve near real-time performance with this application. So the design still remains the same. It's the technology that has changed and has helped us achieve a lot more productivity and efficiency. So with the help of this design, this is just some random snapshots I have picked, screenshots I have picked from an application which acts as a front layer for this. So if I start from maybe the right top, we have now detailed information as to what our OS distribution looks like. How many Windows servers we have with respect to Unix servers. What is our AWS footprint. I have distorted the numbers, just to play it safe, but you get the picture here, right? We know the environment distribution, and then we would like to go and deep dive into the server. So we know that what is the current health status of a server, how many rules are failing on each server, how many rules are passing, and we want to deep dive into the rules. Then we come all the way here and see, okay, these are the different typical rules that we have implemented. We now have about more than 50 rules that we have implemented, and with each rule we know the servers that are passing that rule and the servers that are failing those rules. And what we have also done is, to make it more interesting, we have introduced some kind of gamification, so that there's some competition between the different application teams to showcase their particular application. So this particular image shows you, so the star you see in the center is the best application according to our health standards. And no one wants to be that sad smiley or a saddie you see on the top, right? So there's always application teams reaching out to us and asking us, guys, how do we make our application move away from the bottommost application? And again, this is how they would do it. So they go to that particular application and they would give them detailed information as to why their application is rated what it is. So they can deep dive into seeing what the server's status, health status is for each of their applications, and use that as their starting point. So this is the current state, and I think with this, what we are doing is we are doing daily scrums, daily stand-ups, which is all driven by the data that you see here, and we are able to prioritize, what are the action items for us to go and make our data center, get it into an even better state. So with this, I'll move on to your second use case that I wanted to touch. So we again talked about DevOps. So I wanted to talk about how we are implementing DevOps on AWS using AWS. So what does that mean? Shailesh talked about a lot of developer issues. So what are the issues of operations people, right? So to use cloud the most efficient way, we have to tweak the cloud or use the cloud in a certain fashion, right? We would like to shut down our servers on non-business hours. We would like people to be able to provision fast, but again, adhere to the standards that the IT governs them to. So in order to do all of that, we came up with a microservice architecture, and I call it less server architecture, not a serverless architecture yet, because we have a web front, which is a Node.js application, which acts as a controller and helps us kick off these lambdas. So we have a host of lambda functions, which are each one of them is acting like a microservice. So if you would like to probably go and shut down your server on a weekend, we have a schedule which you register your servers against, and on that particular schedule, Node.js sends API call with the help of API gateway and triggers that Lambda function. And that Lambda function now goes and interacts with the actual AWS account you're trying to manage. And within CA, we have multiple AWS accounts, as in any other typical big enterprise. We have a lot of sales team using AWS. We have a lot of R&D teams using AWS accounts. So what we are now doing is, from our main internal IT AWS account, we are now able to manage a number of other AWS accounts. So it's a simple enough design again. The Node.js makes Lambda calls using API gateway, and then those Lambda functions, depending upon the account number or the keys that are present within the API call, are interacting with the different user accounts. We are using DynamoDB to persist any data that is needed to be, and then we use S3 to again store some of our data, and also again lambdas are tied with S3 as an event trigger, and new lambdas are triggered if needed. And we also use Glacier to just archive our logs. So this is again, our implementation of making life easier for an operations person, and that ultimately would mean that he's able to address the needs of a developer in a faster way. So again, I call this a less server architecture. So these are some of the different functions that we have implemented as lambdas. So as you can see here, we have compliance, provisioning. I'll just show a screenshot next to help you understand what that means. We have a tagging utility that we had developed to make sure that that a new server that you provision has the 4 or 5 mandatory tags attached to it, as soon as it's in our environment. We have different compliance scans, like we don't want any a load balancer without a node attached to it within our environment. Again, I think project spends, capacity management, so all of these are the different use cases that we have implemented with the help of this microservice architecture that I talked about. So these are some screenshots which talk about the portal that we use to manage our AWS environment. So you can see on the left side here, internally we have implemented this solution which we call as the Dragons, inspired by the Netflix monkeys. I think they are a big inspiration for us. So our compliance Dragon has sniffed out the following elastic load balancers, right? So here you see these ELPs have instances attached, but this one has a node attached, but it is out of service. So there's something wrong with it, and as an application owner, I should be going and worrying about that and fixing that. On the right-hand side, you see a form, which is basically how we provision the servers in AWS. This has been in place for about more than 8 months now, and this is the only way we provision AWS servers in our production account. So as you can see, it's a single form. I think a typical process would take at least 3-4 different pages, and the AWS console expects you to have prior knowledge of what your subnets are, what security groups you should be picking. But by the help of a form like this, we have been able to move the provisioning on AWS to an L1 team, where we have narrowed it down to what is supported within the IT of CA. And with the help of selecting maybe 5 or 6 different fields, we are now able to provision servers at random, and you can see we can even provision like 100 servers in one click of a button. A few more examples. So Pen and Picture is our way of optimizing the costs on AWS. So if you want to register your instance to be shut down on a weekend, you use a form which is on your right up there. So we have displayed a time where this schedule kicks in, shuts down your servers, and again, kicks in again to start up your servers. On the bottom you see a report basically which talks about how we have implemented open up termination for multiple users with the help of applying a layer of approval in between. So if you want to terminate or delete an RDS or an EC2 instance, you would just go use a form, submit it, and it would come out to the approver in this form, and he would make a call. Again, a lot of handy utilities just to make the life of operations guy easy. So again, you don't necessarily have to be an AWS expert to use AWS, right? That's where we're trying to move with all of this. So with the help of these two use cases, these are the benefits that we were able to achieve. So we were able to have better governance, eliminate the associated risks, asset identification, monitoring, auditing, compliance. So again, all of these were addressed. Increased agility, added pace to the way operations works, and abstraction layer for AWS. This is where I talked about how a person who's not an AWS expert can still go and perform basic tasks on AWS, and also achieve a lot of cost optimization and resource optimization. So within CA itself, we have launched a program where the different teams who have AWS accounts can reach out to us, and we will work with them, apply some of our techniques, and reduce their costs. And we have been able to achieve tremendous success in some of these accounts where we're able to bring down the costs maybe by 40 to 60%, and that's a huge saving. Again, your rapid detection of any anomalies within the environment. So, and I think all of this is driven because now we have better visibility into our environment. So visibility is the key for us. So as long as you have visibility, then you know what action is required to fix the problem. I think with this, I'm done. We'll have a question and session later. Okay. Yeah. So thank you.